Thank you. I request Kunal Miskin, Joint Community Service Director and the President-elect to
Namaste. Today
take
marks an
over.
important.
So warm Rotaract greeting to everyone, and in today, so our I would like to welcome all of you to our Rotaract Academy event, and our topic is pursuing multiple careers at the same time. And I will briefly introduce our today's speaker about Priyanshi. So by qualifications, she is a Mumbai based chartered account with the all India rank, a master of business law, an inspired lawyer, and the co-author of a publication titled "Creation of a CA Forms: The Way Forward." When not an academician, she is someone who is extremely passionate about the entertainment and sports space. Being an Odissi dancer, national level swimmer, gold medalist, a former jockey at Radio Mirchi. She also worked as a voice over artist and a professional public speaker, having hosted and moderated events on a wide range of topics, both private and government initiative, formal and informal. Today, she have co-founded a startup beyond the degree, a one-stop platform providing students know-how tools and experiences to enable them to follow the unconventional path. At BTD, they educated student, graduate, and professional through the corporate trainings and corporate webinars, career counseling and mentorship programs, and interviews preparation sessions. She also recently co-authored the book titled uh, Digitization of CA forms. She have been felicitated by the likes of the education minister, the government of Maharashtra for simultaneously excelling at the sports and academics, have experience in the corporate and legal space, having networked with the major corporates, unicorns, government bodies, and startup in India abroad, have held multiple leadership position and spearheaded initiative and also publication in the New York Times and legal journals to her name. Uh, his story make us who we are, and his aim her aim is to use her journal and experience to advocate for the idea of breaking stereotypes and creating a nice and that some of who she is, a lawyer who knows the number, can lead and can entertain. Thank you.
Thank you,
So
Kunal. I would now
Rishi,
take this opportunity to also introduce her co-speaker of the day, Anirudh Agrawal. Anirudh is an consultant at Boston Consulting Group and also creates CA with All India Rank 4. He is an also invest banker and stock enthusiast, and also he is the co-founder of the education consultancy platform Beyond the Degree. He has also been facilitated for his performance and academics. Thank you. The floor is all yours. We are eagerly waiting to listen to you.
Thank you so much, firstly, for that wonderful introduction. I understand it's a Sunday afternoon, and we don't really want to bore all of you on a Sunday afternoon with a lot of technical topics or something which is not very interesting. So, we've definitely tried to make this session today as interesting as we could for all of you. And we will love to put in our own personal experience as we go through this entire session. But thank you so much for this wonderful introduction for the both of us. And we would love to start off with our session for today. So first, let me just give you a warning that the two of us come from a commerce background. So we definitely did not have a lot of information on the core careers in science, engineering, or technology. But what we do know is how you can actually pursue multiple careers, or you can pursue a career in different fields, for example, in finance or even in technology, as an engineer or as an engineering or technology student. So, well, this is what, these are two questions that were always asked whenever we get out of college or whenever we get out of school, that what degree do you have? or what do you want to pursue, or what degree do you want to pursue, or do you really want to do something unconventional, something that you're extremely passionate about but you feel won't make you enough money. But what if we tell you that, hey, you can actually do both as you go ahead? There's a very, very interesting quote that you will see. This is probably one of my most favorite quotes because I think it resonates so much with what each of us would like to do as we go ahead. The fact is that you can't stay in a BlackBerry mindset and then think of becoming an Apple. The idea is that you can't be so focused on just your degree, or just, let's say, if you're only doing engineering, you can't be so focused only on engineering that you forget to actually update yourself and that you forget to actually grow holistically. Okay, so this is something that we always live by, which is that you're never too young to start an empire and never too old to chase a dream. Because when you actually become the first to break the code, you actually become the reference. That is trying to say that when you actually become that one person who moves beyond the degree, then that's when you actually start setting an example for others to emulate. And that's when you can also go and tell people that, hey, I pursued multiple careers, I was a jack of all trades and a master of all. So why can't you do it, and why can't everyone do it? If we can go ahead. Okay, so these are certain career options that we thought of that you can take up as an engineering or a technology student along with your course. So, of late, as part of our education consultancy startup, we have always seen that a lot of engineering students, in order to want to make more money or actually want to pursue their own interest in finance or consulting, actually start taking up jobs either pertaining to consulting or have their own startups, IT related startups. Or I think they make great investment bankers, get into risk management roles or industry roles, basically in technology, operations, human resources. But I definitely feel they do really well as investment bankers or as consultants. So we will see much more of that as we go ahead. But I think one thing, since our topic is pursuing multiple careers, we will of course talk about pursuing different careers with engineering that you can actually take up as we go ahead. But we would love to take up your own questions and know your own perspective, because again, it's a Sunday and we want to make this session as fun and interesting as we can for you rather than making it extremely technical and formal. So please feel free to put in your questions in the question box. We would love to take it up in the middle of the session as well, have a discussion. And at the same time, just remember, when it comes to pursuing multiple careers, that people will always tell you that it's very important post the degree to actually be set with that degree and get that 9 to 5 job, or actually work, do a desk job from 9 to 5. But if you are someone who is an engineer, but if you're also someone who's really passionate about finance, about the markets, or if you're really just passionate about public speaking, for example, me, I'm a CA, but I just love public speaking and corporate training. Just understand that it's never too late or it's never too early to actually pursue both. Because if you manage your time well and you manage your interests well, you can actually take up both and do extremely well as you go ahead in either of the professions, or even in both of the professions. In fact, I was interviewing certain star sports hosts, in fact, like anchors on star sports, and majority of them come from an engineering background. So it's very interesting to see and to hear that they come from an engineering background, but they've taken up a career in sports hosting, or they've actually taken up a career in the performing arts. And we should all understand that if we're really passionate about something, we can actually do both with your degree or with your educational qualifications.
Yeah. So I think before we start getting into all the details, etc., I think we have some very interesting tidbits for you. And I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, would have heard about at least 2 or 3, if not all of these roles, right? And I'm sure a lot of you will be thinking that, abhi iske baad kya karna hai, what should we do, etc. There are just so many things out in the market. It can get really confusing for students like you, because we know both of us have been there like a few years back, and it can be a really difficult choice to make. So we just thought we'll help you out. First of all, understand what each of these careers entail, what are the kind of skill sets, etc., that you would want to start developing from now if you're interested in a particular role, and so on. And then more general, some gyan from our side, to close the Sunday on what kind of skill sets do you need overall to like really excel and succeed in your careers. How do you manage time and pursue multiple careers at the same time, like we've been trying to do? Whether successfully or unsuccessfully, time will tell, but that's exactly been our endeavor over the last few years. So I think let me get started with consulting. So as your vice president, kindly highlighted, I am working with the Boston Consulting Group. I hope a lot of you would have heard about the consulting firms McKinsey, BCG, and Bain. So I'm working at BCG as a management consultant. Now, this is the profession which actually has maximum jargons, right? So at any point of time, if you feel that I'm not being able to do justice to the topic, please feel free to add in questions to the chat box. And Priyanshi, if you could highlight those live, that'll be great. So we'll just cover them as they come. And
Yes,
as I,
definitely. I'll do that.
yeah, thanks. So let's get into it. What is management consulting, right? So simply put, if I put it as an engineering definition, it deals with solving business problems for companies. So typically, you will see that we work with the top companies in each country. So in India, for example, that would be all your top FMCG companies, whether it's a Unilever or an ITC or a Procter and Gamble or your top steel giants, industry giants, etc. Now, what do we do there? Or what is the expectation from that company, and why do they bring in an external consultant? You are going to be given a very specific problem that that business is facing, and you are expected to solve some of these burning issues that they're facing. Now, what can those issues be? They can be that the business is not growing. They can be that the business is not profitable enough, or it can be that the organization has gotten old. They need to restructure themselves to work in the new world. So again, lots of gyan. But how does the day-to-day life of a consultant look? Why is it that we as 20, 25-year-olds can be entrusted to enter these companies and create change which people working in there for 20 years are not able to do? So what do we really do? It's simple. There are two kinds of things that we do on a daily basis, or two different types of cases that you will see that come up on your screen right now. The first one is a strategy case. Now, what's a strategy case? This is the most common thing that you will most likely be doing in consulting. You will help them frame the strategy for the coming years. Now, let me take an example. One example is, let's say you're the consultant for Maruti Suzuki today. Now, all of us would have heard that how the auto industry is going to get disrupted by two things. One is electric vehicles, and the second one is autonomous driving. Today, we know that our companies in India are clearly not shaped up to go there, right? We're still in that age-old petrol, diesel vehicles. We're nowhere close to autonomous driving. So they need to do this in order to stay ahead in the market and keep winning. Otherwise, some competitor will come from abroad and take away all of their business that has been built hard over the last 20, 25 years. So this is the value that you can add. You will bring in those global best practices. You will help the management frame the strategy. Okay, these are the vehicles that you would want to enter with. These are the markets that you would want to enter with. This is how it can actually become a profitable business over the next few years. That is one type of case that we do. The second one is a core operation slash execution case. Now, here, what value do you add? A lot of companies in India, even today, do not work very rigorously using data. They work using experience, intuition, judgment of the age-old business managers. But the world is so fast today that you need that data, that rigor to come in. This is where you will add value as a consultant. You will actually be working day to day in driving their business operation. You will see, okay, this is the place where we are having trouble, and this is the potential solution for it. These are the leakages in your system that you will need to curb. This is where these are the markets where competition is killing us. Okay, this is how you will counter the competition. So just those kind of things are what consultants work on day in and day out.
Okay, and also another thing that I would just like to add there is just on a lighter note. So we've always been told as consultants, even though we are CAs and we're technically not supposed to be saying this, but when you really get into management consulting, there is a lot of numerical work, analysis, etc., that you're required to do industry analysis. And I think more than CAs or more than MBAs, engineers are really equipped to do this entire analysis, especially like super quick, and which is where I think even we as CAs or rank holders probably lose our advantage that we have over engineers. when they really try to get into management consulting?
Yeah. So I think half the people in BCG must be engineers in some way. So yeah, that's how dominant engineers are in the whole consulting framework. Yeah. But what does that really entail? I hope the last slide sounded kind of interesting, at least if not very interesting. So, but what there is a lot of grunt work, right? Each pro comes with a con, and just some of the grunt work that I've tried to highlight over here. So first one, the worst kind of work there is formatting slides, right? So why slides and why PPTs? This is a thing that is core to the consulting profession. Why? You will be expected to present your outlook on that business problem and its solutions to the clients on what we call a deck or a PowerPoint presentation. You will spend a hell lot of time creating these slides, making them look perfect, at least so that, even though if your recommendations are not up to the mark, the beauty of the slides gets some things to go through. The second one, making Excels. You will be making very, very detailed Excels because data is God over here. Everything relies on data. You will need to have, your number skills will need to be extremely sharp and strong, which I don't think you guys will anyways have a problem with. So that's great. You will create these complex Excel models to prove beyond doubt that your solution is correct. The third one is, yeah, meetings and calls. So exactly, I think I'm going to start soon have Zoom fatigue, given the number of Zoom calls that we've been doing over the last like 1 year or so now, ever since the COVID hit. But yeah, you could probably spend even 8 to 9 hours a day on attending meetings, and apart from that, you'll be doing work. So you can imagine what the working hours will be looking like. You will be doing team meetings, client meetings, giving presentations, review calls. All of these things will keep going on through the day. So yeah, that's how a day-to-day job might look like. Overall, I think it's pretty interesting, but yeah, it does come with its own set of cons. I hope that
I
sounded
think
interesting enough. Yeah,
add in
just go ahead.
there though that if you're really someone who is really into, let's barring all of this routine work that you will be required to do, if you're really someone who's extremely analytical and at the same time you really want to be innovative in terms of your solutions, then I think management consulting is great because you actually get to explore so many things that you could have done with respect to a business. For example, how would you want to revamp the entire business model of Facebook, right? I mean, that's what you would do as a consultant. And for that, you don't really need to be from a commerce background because, like we said, it's so data driven that you as engineers would be in a better position to even analyze that data.
Absolutely. And if at the end, if everyone on the call is interested, maybe we can take a question or two on, how a real life case would look like and so on. I won't get into that right now. Let's just see how many people would want to hear that. If you guys are interested, then how could you get into consulting, right? So I think there are 3 or 4 steps that I've put down. The first one and the most challenging one is actually getting shortlisted by these firms. So once you guys actually graduate, there will be a consulting firms that will most likely reach out to you. They reach out to all the major campuses across the country to hire people because they want great associates like you guys. So what do you need to do? You need to prepare a really kick-ass CV, highlight all your academic accomplishments, a differentiated profile of any internships, etc., that you would have done, any great extracurriculars that you would have done over the last few years. That is very important because we're looking for pretty well-rounded individuals, not just in terms of academic capabilities, but also in terms of extracurricular skills or interests around sports, arts, music, and so on. Now, the interesting part comes here. What is the interviewing style? We do not have, for context, a typical HR round where you're asked, tell me about yourself and all of those rando things, right? We have a very clear-cut interview style where we take a real-life business case interview. So you're given a business problem to solve and you have to solve it in front of the interviewer in about 20 to 25 minutes. Now there is a set of steps that we can get into on how to prep for them, what are the skills that you require, and so on. But we'll cover that later. I think it's important to, or interesting for all of us to know what a case interview is. Essentially, it's a series of structured steps that, what you can do is you will be given a business case. Now, what is that business case? You are, your client is the owner of a grocery store. The grocery store has been seen falling profitability for the last 2 years. You are hired to turn around the situation. this is your business problem, that you need to improve the profitability of something as simple as a grocery store. And then you will take a series of structured steps actually and describe that in the whole interview and come to a conclusion that these are A, B, C, the three things that we will do, and we will turn around the situation for a particular business. That's exactly how a case interview would grow.
But what's also really interesting about these case interviews is that you can always choose the kind of industry that you want to work in. For example, if you're someone who's really interested in finance related aspects or banking related aspects or risk management, etc., you can always choose to get into that particular industry. But at the same time, if you're an engineer or someone interested in technology, or if you're someone who's really interested in the telecommunication media space, you can always pick that industry. Or surprisingly, for all the sports fans, you can also even pick the sports industry, so you get to work with the larger companies and work on their business models. So which is the reason why management consulting is so much preferred as a career, because it's like a platter where you get to pick and choose what you want as long as you ace the case interview. Okay. So anyway, and just in terms of the case interviews, I think what's really important is you don't have to try to get the right answer, or you don't have to have the right solution for every problem. All you really need to do is just cover the right aspects. Hello?
Yeah, you're back. I think you dropped off it. So. Yes, yes.
If we can go ahead to the next slide.
Yeah. Let's just go ahead. Priyanshi, you want to cover?
Okay, all right. Okay, I thought it was an error at my end. Guys, if I'm not audible or anything, please put it in the chat box, because we're living in a world of technology, but again, we have only 3G and 4G right here. So it's a little off. Okay. But the next aspect, which is extremely interesting that I would like to cover, is with respect to entrepreneurship. So we see a lot of people getting into startups. I mean, we ourselves, we really wanted to, we ventured into the professional space, but we always wanted to have something of our own, and than me, which is the reason why we really got into the entire startup entrepreneurship space, because that's really where you get to bring in your idea, something that you're really passionate about, and convert that into your business. Now again, startups are where the entire concept of pursuing multiple careers comes into picture, because I may be a CA, you may be an engineer, or you may be a tech guy, but if I don't know anything about finance, or if I don't know anything about marketing, or if I don't know how to network, my startup is never going to do well. So if you're someone who really wants to cover each of these aspects when it comes to any sort of business, and if you're someone who also has a business mind, then probably having something of your own could be one of the most unique things that you do, especially with respect to any idea that you may have. So now, certain points to remember when you graduate fresh out of college and actually decide to venture into the entire entrepreneurship or startup space. One is that do not be really afraid of your idea. Remember, ideas are always unique. So if you think that you have a great idea and would want to start off with that, then do take the chance, because trust me, once you get into the professional space, you're never going to get any amount of time to either go for trial and error or ever try your idea. The second thing is create extraordinary experiences. So, when you're someone who has an engineering mind or a technology mind, but you're also someone who has a business mind, you know that you'll be able to probably incorporate the best of technology, or probably the latest technology in your startup, and at the same time put in that business acumen, put in that marketing perspective into your startup, and create an extraordinary experience. So whenever you're going into entrepreneurship, remember that you may have an idea, you may have a product, but if you don't create a holistic experience, or don't actually put forth that idea well, or if you don't network, then you're definitely not going to be able to sell that idea. And lastly, this is something that we always say when we talk about pursuing multiple careers, which is that just do something that you're really passionate about. To be honest, we've all seen Three Idiots, and we all know that not everyone is very fond of engineering, or probably along with engineering, you may be really fond of photography, or you may be really fond of blogging, let's say, because it's so upcoming these days. You can probably have an engineering related blog because there's a lack of that, or something related to technology. But always understand that when you're going for entrepreneurship or anything on those lines, you have to understand what you're really passionate about, and not just see what degree you have and whether you're actually going to make use of that degree or not. Because trust me, your degree is always going to come in handy, and your degree will always be a backup, if not anything.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think it's a buzzword these days that I want to be a startup or I want to be an entrepreneur. I think there are two sides to it. So I think the best way anybody put it was Charles Dickens, unknowingly, that it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. It's the season of hope, but it's the season of despair. Elon Musk once said that entrepreneurship is like Elon staring into the abyss of death, right? But when entrepreneurship is something that can really make you wake up every day wanting to do that, wanting to make the difference, it's hard, no doubt. But then it's the best thing there is for people who are really, really committed about that one thing that they want to achieve in their life. Then this is it, and this is where you should be, honestly.
So we have a lot of people telling us what exactly entrepreneurship entails and what exactly does it have. Trust me, there is no straight jacket formula. We have also put this just for the sake of showing you something, but there are some very, very key aspects to remember here. One is you have to be able to network. So if you're any student from any background, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to know how to network, and you have to know how to really connect with people and sell your idea. You could probably have the best idea in the world, but if you cannot tell people what your idea is about, then it's definitely not going to go anywhere for you. And another thing that we also like to talk about is you have to be a serial innovator. But trust me, it's not that easy. Everyone tells you if you want to be an entrepreneur, you should have a great and innovative idea. And I mean, you're from the technology space, right? So they'll always ask you to probably bring something disruptive when it comes to technology. For example, like Anirudh said, how to overcome Zoom fatigue and things on those lines. But no, it's not that complicated, because all entrepreneurship entails is just having a simple idea, something as simple as education, and it's just how you put forth that idea to people when it actually becomes innovative, and how simply you put it forth to people and how relatable it is. If we can go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is again something that people would have always told you, skills needed for a startup. But I'm just going to pinpoint the most important ones. The first one that I always speak about is the mouth. You have to be really good at networking, branding, interpersonal relations. Because trust me, it's extremely hard to manage your idea and manage people with the execution of that idea. So, again, these are going to be really important skills. But when you're pursuing multiple careers, for example, let's say that you want to start a startup, but at the same time you want some sense of security, so you continue with your job. So that's when your time management skills are going to be extremely important. I'll just use a very simple example. I mean, both of us, we are professionals, we are working because we ourselves did not know with this startup where our idea would go, which is why we started off. But at the same time, we never left our job. But what really mattered is how we managed our time, how we divided our time, and how we really prioritize things. So like strategic planning, execution, time management, interpersonal skills are going to be extremely important. And you're putting in your own money when it comes to your startup. So this is where you're probably going to need the help of a CA like Anirudh or me. But yeah, you need to know how to manage your finances and know exactly where to invest, how to invest, and how to go about with the investment as you go ahead in the startup.
Yeah, just the last point I will add to this. I think point 4. I think that is one of the hardest things that you will do, managing someone else and actually getting them to execute your idea, believe in your idea, idea. Another really, really challenging and hard thing, like Priyanshi and I have been learning that the hard way over the past few months. But that is another very, very challenging part. The people who can deal well with others and ask them to believe in it and get them to work, those are the guys that are definitely going to succeed.
Okay, also I see that it's I know it's Sunday and I hope that people are not dozing off. So if anyone has any questions, please again feel
Yeah,
free to put them
absolutely.
in. Or if you have any point of view or any discussion that you would like to take up, we would love to have that, because we don't want to make this a session where we're the only ones talking. But let me just end this last slide, and probably after that we could take up one or two questions if there are any before continuing ahead. So there are some very key career roles that add value to your startup, because I believe that majority of you will be from an engineering or from a technology related background. I will try to focus more on those roles. So because when we look at corporate roles, business strategy is very important. Basically comes under the bracket of consulting itself, like we spoke earlier. But it's going to be really important for you to know how to manage your own finances, and this is where engineers really lack, because of the fact that they don't come from a finance related background. I mean, I'm a CA, but I yet suck at financial planning because I have no idea how to go about financial independence. But that's where your stock markets and everything on those lines comes into picture. As we already spoke about, managing people and managing technology now, in fact, which you guys must be experts at, because of the fact that we've had to completely revamp our structures on account of COVID. However, there are certain non-corporate roles that will also play a picture. For example, your ability to market, because everything is absolutely on social media now. And now blogging and podcasting are literally like the new buzzwords that are being used. So I think those skills, especially with respect to content creation, specifically with respect to your startup, is going to be more and more important as we go ahead, especially because of the kind of space and the environment that we're living in now.
So I think it's not just about ideas and just a few myths that we wanted to break. Actually, it's inspiration and 99% perspiration, right? That's all success is in this world. You don't need to quit your job. You don't need to go into it 100%. You just need to take small incremental steps daily. The biggest risk that Zuckerberg says is not taking any risk. In the world that is changing really quickly, if you don't take risks, you're obviously bound to fail, right? But that won't happen on day one. You'll certainly realize that one day, oh God, I'm so far behind everybody and the world has completely shifted from where we are. So that is why these are some of the things that, like all of us really need to keep in mind on a day-to-day basis. Managing that daily workload, these are things if we keep at the back of our mind as principles will really help us get ahead in life. But now, like Priyanshi said, I think it's time to pause it, see if we have any questions, and only then we'll move ahead.
Yes, definitely. And honestly, I think we've just tried to cover careers that we think would be important and that you would like to see. But if y'all have any other perspective, we would love to hear that. If we have any sort of questions, you can just unmute yourself also and ask the question, and we would be totally open to that. Okay, do we have any questions, or are people absolutely not listening to us? Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat box. Suraj, do we have any questions by any chance, or if anyone wants to add any inputs?
I cannot see anybody having any questions yet.
Okay, so that either means
Yeah.
that we're very good, or that either means that we're extremely boring. So
No,
you got
I
to give
don't
us
think
a
so.
heads up
You're
on that.
boring. You were not boring. Yeah.
Okay,
I guess we can continue then. I may think
okay, all
we
right.
may have questions at the end, I guess.
Okay, fine. So we take up questions towards the end. But I also see that
Yeah.
I think we've spoken quite a bit, which is why we're going to we'll briefly try to cover the different careers that you can take up with engineering. So looking at it from a banking perspective, you've heard of major banks like HDFC, ICICI, SBI, but now they have two different roles: sales and relationship management, along with different support functions, which are essentially the back end roles. Most of us think that if you really want to get into a finance banking related role, then you should be someone from a finance background, or you should be someone from a commerce background. But let me tell you that a lot of engineers also land up pursuing CFA or land up pursuing MBA in finance and actually take up a core career in investment banking and probably work with the largest firms like Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, simply because of the fact that investment banking, private equity, and everything on those lines is essentially about studying industries, studying different data, and it's extremely data driven, which is again where definitely hands down you as engineers and tech geeks always have an advantage. So these are a lot of roles sought out by engineers. Most engineers always land up taking up an MBA post graduation, because an engineering or even a CA, for all you know, is never enough. But when you land up taking an MBA, it always gives you an edge when you're applying for an investment banking or private equity related role. And trust me, it also has a lot of money. Anirudh has personally worked in that field, so he will definitely be able to throw some more light on it.
Yeah. I think just before we get into details on investment banking and so on, there was one question, and it's a great question. Should you pursue multiple? What is the approach to pursue multiple careers? Should you go one by one or pursue all at once? I think I'll give my 2 cents on it, and then Priyanshi, you can expand on. I think honestly, for me, you should start all at once, right? Especially given the age that you guys would be at right now, I think that's the best approach. But there is a certain structured way in which you'll have to do it, or you'll get lost. See, honestly, what you need to do is write down 20 things that you would want to do. Out of that, cancel the bottom 15. Remain the top 5 things that are on your mind. Now, what could those top 5 things be? They could be one, a special career. Second thing, something, a great idea that you have on this side that you would want to do. Third is any educational pursuits. Fourth could be a passion that you would want to follow, or some, something in sports, arts, etc. that you would want to do. Every day, divide your time, divide your energy between all of those things, and do not spend time on anything else. That's the way, one by one, but all at once, you will get there. If you wait for a few years, or wait for retirement, or wait for the age of 40, it's not going to happen. You have to get there and start then and there, but do it in a way that you don't get lost amidst all the madness.
And to put it in a very layman's perspective, trust me, right now you're young. When you graduate, you're young. You have less responsibility and a lot of scope for trial and error. But when you start, going up in the corporate ladder, you'll suddenly start realizing that you're so comfortable in the corporate space or where you are that you will never want to venture into something new. So that's why you should always start everything together. See what you really like. Or, the best part about starting together is that you will always come to know what you don't like. I mean, that's what happened to me too when I started CA. After my articleship, I realized exactly what I don't like, which actually led me to try to pursue and prioritize what I really like within the same field. So I think that's really important. And when you're young, like we always say, there's a lot of scope for trial and error. Do things, if you don't like it, switch. No one's ever going to tell you anything.
Yeah, absolutely. But well, thanks. That was a good question. I hope our answer helped you a little bit. If not, you can
Yes,
we
and
can
we would love to
continue
hear
having.
more questions like this from you
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
in terms of investment banking, there are some major
Uh,
activities involved right here, which is one is you have to raise capital. So you basically help firms raise capital. You provide them advisory related services. You study different industries wherein all your data comes into picture, and you really do an entire risk analysis. So if you see those tech geeks really looking at markets and looking at those charts and diagrams, all that is all about analyzing industries and risks in order to really analyze where you can raise capital and where you can advise individuals to put in their capital. So that's a little
yeah,
about what investment banking entails. But because again, because y'all are engineers, y'all may always feel that y'all wouldn't do well in the investment banking space. But because of the fact that y'all are so good at analysis, especially with respect to risk management, a lot of engineers today start preferring risk management roles along with the mundane engineering jobs, simply for the sake of adding diversity to their roles, especially when you're someone into technology and analysis and data.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think investment banking is a classical sales role, if you can call it that. So any business, suppose you go to a business and they need money, right? They need capital, whether it's to survive, whether it's to expand their business. They will come to you as an investment banker. Your job is literally to convince somebody else. It can be a fund, it can be large investors, etc., to give them that money. So that's the job, or that's the core principle of investment banking, and obviously make a very fat fees on for helping that company raise that capital that they want. So that's how investment banking works. Now, what will that entail, right? That will basically entail a few things. You will need to create these complex Excel models, see where that industry is going, see how the business would potentially be doing, etc., and convince somebody else to put in their hard-earned money in those funds and in those businesses to actually help that business grow. That's the job. Now, I know there is a lot of technical jargon, etc., on this page. I'm not going to get into that, but it's as simple as two companies need to merge. An investment banker will make that happen. Some company needs capital, a banker will make that happen. Anything to do with corporate finance, you want to raise money through bonds or debt, a banker will make that happen. It's a best sales job that there is. Actually, it's actually a sales job, not a banking job. Now I'll just cover some things that you will need, or the practical journey that you would probably want. If any of you guys are interested in this entire investment banking space, I'm sure everybody here has heard of firms like Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, and they are some of the top recruiters, right? So how do you get into these kind of esteemed firms or esteemed names? They typically prefer MBAs over, just graduates. So if you are one of those guys who post your graduation is going to pursue an MBA from some of the top B schools, definitely you have a great chance. Now they will also look for some additional skills. Now, what are these additional skills? Similar to consulting, debating, whether you're good at comparing, if you're good at sports, do you have a well-rounded personality? Can you really have that communication and presence? This is critical. One is, are you good with numbers? Second is, can you convince people about your numbers? Can you communicate and present yourself in a way in front of very senior people so that they are convinced with your logic? So those are the two key skills that you will need. Now, what else? Doing some internships. So whenever you do an internship, if you can approach some of these smaller investment banks to actually give you those 2 months, two things will happen. One is you'll understand whether this is the right place for you to be or not, and 2 months is not a long time to understand that. Second thing is that you will actually get a very big know that you've seen the kind of work that is being done, etc. And a person like a Morgan Stanley might actually end up hiring you. So here, the interviews, if I had to cover that, you will have a typical process where they will understand in the HR round, what is your background, what are the skills that you have, and then there will be a technical round, which will typically be a valuation-led case study. They'll expect you to actually create an Excel model, present that model, and so on, and do some analysis on financial statements and so on. So you will have to prepare for that interview in that way to actually get into investment banking later on.
Also, there's another thing that I would like to add here, which is that what we've really noticed is that a lot of basically the bigger companies, they always land up going to the IT schools or B schools, of course, but a lot of the IITs, etc., in order to hire individuals from there. Simply because I know that most of you would be knowing about this much more in detail than we do. But with artificial intelligence and the entire concept of new technology, blockchain technology coming into picture, I think everyone wants someone who is technically driven in terms of technology per se. And more than actually having the requisite technical knowledge, it's all about actually doing well with numbers, analyzing that data, and actually being persuasive and selling it while incorporating it now with the new technology that is available. So I think that's where engineers and IITians again play a really important role, because they start doing really well as compared to the others. And since Anirudh himself is at BCG, Boston Consulting Group, he himself has seen that these individuals actually go to engineering schools now and hire individuals simply because of the diversity of background that they come from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think time to shift a little bit from banking and get straight into business, right? So today, working in startups, working in the industry. So now I'll try to look at some of the major roles that are there here, and some of the more interesting ones. We can spend some time if you guys have further questions. The first one being a lead. Now, what is this? This is the core leadership or strategy team that each business will now have. They make that top-down strategy, like we spoke in consulting, where to play, where should that business play, and how to win in those segments. Make sure that day-to-day operations run smoothly. What are the new initiatives that need to be taken? This is the core team. So imagine in Reliance, Mukesh Ambani has a core team of about 20 to 30 people under him who work to see where Reliance should be going. That is who have probably come up with the whole idea of Reliance Retail, Geo, and everything over the past few years. The second one is sales and marketing. So it's been basically getting those sales numbers, pushing the teams on the ground to sell. What are the incentives that are required to drive those teams? How to crush competition? These are the things that the sales team drives. Marketing, I'm sure everyone is aware how to build a brand, how to communicate better with customers, how to make your brands resonate with customers. That's pretty critical, right? So that's what sales and marketing. Then a set of smaller roles that would be there, which will primarily be around ensuring production and management, will be ensuring procurement and logistics operations. So those are a set of smaller roles. However, the interesting part is in technology now. Now in technology, what are the different sort of roles that we have? The first one, the most important one today and the most growing one is data analytics. Every business, now we know what we hear is data is the new oil, right? Every business will run on data. The people who know how to analyze their data and make use of it are the ones who are actually going to rule the roost come 5 years down the line. So those are some of the most upcoming roles, and I think there's a great career for anybody who gets into a data analytics role going ahead. Then there is a set of normal roles around which is whether it's development and management of the web and app, management, data security, etc. A smaller set of roles in finance, I think the most interesting is the MIS role, which is tracking some key performance metrics of each business, which helps the senior people take the right decisions in the day. So those are just different roles that you will see across industry or startups. According to me, the two most interesting roles are leadership programs and data analytics in technology. Those are the places that you guys would really want to be to progress ahead.
So this is entirely why you want to start working with big companies that you've always heard of right from the very beginning, or you want to probably get into app development for these kind of companies, website development, anything on those lines. Basically, let's say you as an engineer want to work with Facebook, but at the same time, you just don't want to focus on the technology aspects, but you also want to focus more on how the business model works. So that's where a lot of these industry related roles really come into picture, and they, trust me, they do make your work very exciting because you actually get to work with the real big companies. For example, you could go and work with any of the companies in Silicon Valley, add your knowledge there, and actually see that your role is pretty innovative as compared to what a mundane job would have been right here. So
Yeah.
this is okay. So this is something which is extremely common and centric to any type of career that you pursue, or even if you want to pursue multiple careers. Then in the end, whatever you do, it's all about the skills. We always think, and we've always been told that degrees are extremely important. My qualification, what I do, what degree do I have, is going to be really important. But trust me, if you're not able to implement that degree well, which is where your skills come in, you will never be able to pursue multiple careers, or you will never be able to get ahead in whatever career you pursue. So some important points to remember, which we've covered earlier as well, but just to summarize: communication. I've always stressed on this, but if you cannot self brand yourself or your idea, you will never be able to get the right work, or actually get the right people to even do your work. So communication and networking is extremely important. You have to be extremely analytical and have critical thinking, but I don't think I really need to stress upon that, because as engineers and tech geeks, you're always told to have extremely high analytical skills, much more than what we would have. But a few other points are: you have to think on your feet, basically be extremely quick. So if you know that it's time for you to start your own venture, or if you know that it's time for you to actually make that career switch from, let's say, an engineering or technology related role to the industry, or to also pursue multiple careers together, you have to be quick and think on your feet and also adapt, because that's when you'll really realize whether you made the right decision or not. And you'll actually take the leap of faith to get into the whole trial and error aspect, rather than sitting where you are and then just trying to climb the corporate ladder. And the last thing, of course, is initiative. So like someone really very rightly asked the question, that when you want to choose whether to actually go one by one or to take up multiple careers at the same time, it's all about how much initiative are you willing to take. Are you as a young person willing to put in 20 hours a day, or are you as an individual just wanting to put 12 hours a day and probably pursue something else in the balance hours? That's totally up to you, but it's about how much initiative you take. Because trust me, if you really want to pursue multiple careers and if you decide to take initiative, you know that you will be able to put in 20, 22 hours a day into everything that you're passionate about and yet excel at everything. So this is just to say, but it takes me to a very relevant slide again, which is that entrepreneurship, or in fact anything that you do, is all about creating change and not just companies. You don't want to land up becoming a corporate slave, or you don't want to land up doing something normal because that's what everyone does. But if you really do decide to take up multiple careers, for example, like I'm really passionate about public speaking, which is why I also decided to work as a radio jockey at Radio Mirchi along with my professional career, because in the end, it's about doing things that you're passionate about and actually creating that change, right? In a similar fashion, Anirudh, he was also into the CA space, but at the same time, he was extremely passionate about stocks and investment, which is where he started making videos educating people about stocks and investment. And this eventually led us to our startup, which is an education consultancy platform where we offer all sort of help that you need. So I think small things like this create change, they create innovation, disruption, and they actually lead you to create your own companies that you've always wanted to create. So that's just it about pursuing multiple careers and doing different things that you really want to. Trust me, to cut it short, I know it was very technical, but trust me, if you really want to do something, just do it rather than having regrets at any point of time in the future. Because trust me, there is never a right time. But if you actually put your head into it and take the effort, you will be able to be a jack of all trades and a master of all. So that's just my new favorite quote. I like to just say, instead of being a jack of all trades and master of none, you be a jack and master of all trades.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like Priyanshi said very correctly, you should never have regrets. One of the frameworks that I actually use is a regret minimization framework. What does that entail? Any decision that you have to take, whether it be on the personal front, the professional front, etc., ask yourself the question: 20 years down the line, will I regret doing it or not doing it? If the answer is you will regret not doing it, just go ahead and do it. Be what the consequences may be. So this is exactly the framework that Jeff Bezos used to start Amazon, right? Interestingly, I think he was a very senior position at a great hedge fund, making more like $1 million a year or something. And he got this crazy idea to start a bookstore on the internet. The thing that helped him make the decision is he said he would regret 20 years down the line, and which is exactly why he followed his passion and is now one of the richest in the world, right? So use this framework, do what you're passionate about, pursue those multiple things. Yeah, let's not get bogged in by the day and do and not do. You will really regret not doing it 10 years down the line when you have a family, when you have responsibilities, etc. So this is the time that you really need to go for it.
And actually explore your horizons. So even whether you're into engineering or technology, you know that there is a huge space out there with respect to finance, entrepreneurship, where you can actually do better than people like us or CAs like us. So I think it's very important for you to venture out. And trust me, even roles like public speaking or blogging, or like simply something as simple as marketing, I think all of these roles also go really well, especially when you combine the right knowledge that you have and create the right platform. So don't really be afraid to get into any of these unconventional roles as well, or for all you know, even become like a big sportsman, even though you are an engineer. we all see movies, but we know that, if we really want, these kind of things can actually work, if you really wanted to.
So that's enough of the
So I think
monologues
that's
from our side. Happy to take up any questions if you guys have.
any questions, any discussion, any viewpoint, we would love to hear from you, because I know we've spoken quite a bit today. Okay, so do we have any questions?
Guys, you all can unmute or you all can just put it in the chat. That will be also good.
Also, we would just like to add that if any of you really want to get in touch with any one of us, either to understand, since you all come from more of an science related background, if any of you want to understand any aspects of finance or any of these particular roles in general, or if you want guidance with respect to managing careers or managing a career switch, then you can always reach out to us at any point of time through our startup. I will also put in the link just for everyone's reference. You could definitely reach out to us, and we would love to help you, guide you with your careers. And trust me, we do not have any boundaries with respect to like a science versus commerce, because in the end, your careers and your qualification is your qualification. So we would love to help you with that, and really help you get forward with respect to any career that you would like to take up, any unconventional role as well. So do get in touch with us if you would like to. I will just put in the link in the chat box in case anyone really wishes to connect with us.
Yeah. I think we've taken a lot of time on a Sunday afternoon. I'm sure all of you guys want to go ahead and get started before like the Monday blues hit. So I think Suraj, we won't take any more of your time. Thank you guys. Thanks a lot for having us. It's really been a great experience for us. I hope we added some value to you guys.
Yeah, it
And
was.
we hope we didn't bore you on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I didn't
With
get bored. It was great. It was great. Yeah.
So yeah, just a small announcement before we proceed. So today on the occasion of International Mother Language Day, we are announcing a new project Genesis in association with Rotaract Lab of Patos Norte, which is a Rotaract Club based in Brazil. So in this event, you have to write articles related to your mother tongue. You can also submit poetry or story in your regional language. So the details for the event will also be posted on the WhatsApp group. So post your article soon, as the deadline for the event is 25th Feb. Now, I would like to thank Priyanshi ma'am and Anirudh sir for giving us an insight into various career choices we can pursue in the future. Thank you for giving us a direction and telling us what we need to do to be able to pursue multiple careers. It was truly a wonderful and constructive session with some beneficial takeaways, and I'm pretty sure our participants found them very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rotaract, for having us, and we hope we added value to everyone who is listening to this conversation.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it
we
was
would love
great.
to hear from you as well. We love to have different perspectives coming in from people. So we would love to hear from you, and keep in touch.
Yeah.